as a check-in. Okay, let me ask again. So, over the last 2 weeks, how do you feel?
I mean, I feel okay. There are
Okay.
days where I feel bloated, but that's because of diet more than anything else.
Okay, I'd love to hear more of your insight. Continue, and then we'll come back to that.
Um, Also, I realizing that I actually do have much more muscle than I used to.
Oh, okay.
So that, and then the idea that the more muscle you have, the more energy that's spent in maintaining that muscle, which gives me hope that eventually I have so much muscle that it'll actually cut the calories, or not the calories, but the weight down,
Yes.
or reasonable weight.
Well, hint, hint, spoiler alert, it's working.
Oh, good.
So I'll give you actual metrics, but I'd love, you said two things and I'd love your insight on those. So first you said you are bloating a little bit and that seems to be connected to dietary. So tell me about why you think that you're bloating.
So it depending on what I eat, if I eat like too much cheese or dairy products, then I get bloated.
Okay.
But the funny thing is that even like the alternative dairy, like coconut milk, should not make me bloated, but I still kind of feel that bloatedness.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure about that at all.
Okay.
But I know that when I have any extra dairy, because normally I don't drink milk or eat a lot of cheese, so
Okay.
it seems to affect me faster than it used to.
Mm-hmm. Like you're almost getting more sensitive, right?
Yeah.
I found the same thing happen to myself when we went vegan for 3 months, and then I came back and tried to eat any cheese.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So your body does get more sensitive, and that's because it's basically not allergic, right? We're not probably allergic to dairy, but because you're so lactose intolerant, right? It starts to create that adaptive response, and it's like, oh, this is so good for me not having dairy. Like I feel so much better, and then we try to intro it back in, and they're like, ah.
Yeah.
Okay, so have you been having a lot of dairy this last week? And I can love that you're creating that connection. You're able to actually feel or see the difference pretty immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So have you been eating very much dairy this week?
Well, not a lot, but the one day that, oh, we had
Hmm.
cheeseburgers and your dad put two slices of cheese on the burger really did a number on me.
And not to get graphic, but out the other end too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the thing. I noticed the poop has been pretty consistent. It's been semi hard, not hard, but in that 4 or 5 range.
Hmm.
So I know the poop is okay as
Hmm.
far as the gut goes, but um, even when I eat the yogurt and I took a lactose pill, when I took the lactose pill, it was better. But when I didn't take the lactose pill, then it also reacted with my stomach.
Yeah. So remind me again which yogurt you're eating.
I got that kefir
Mm.
yogurt.
Which is a
The,
probiotic. You hadn't mentioned that you were having probiotics, but I thought that you were eating yogurt. So that is technically, the kefir is technically a probiotic.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
that
Okay.
so that
So do you remember I told you about Too Good yogurt?
which ones?
Like the number, it's called Too Good, the number two, TWO, good.
Oh,
So that's not the only brand, but if you look for an ultra filtered yogurt, it's
uh-huh.
actually lactose free.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I we eat Too Good, and it was originally because it's low carb, low sugar for Calpo. But then I found out that because it was ultra filtered, it was lactose free, and I eat one of those like once a day and haven't had any negative reactions. So I highly suggest seeking an ultra filtered option, and it has the same consistency as normal yogurt, so it's actually still
Uh-huh.
really good.
Well, the only reason why I bought that yogurt was because when I went to the farmer's market, it said probiotic
Mm-hmm.
and,
Yes.
listed all those other things along with it. Probiotic, all natural,
Mm-hmm.
only honey added, so no added sugars, but honey.
Lovely. Lovely. I love that you're paying attention to that stuff, and it is all true and accurate. However, being lactose intolerant, you may not have that as an option.
Yeah.
But basically, every yogurt is going to be probiotic. So even if you need to switch to another one, you should still be able to get those probiotic benefits.
Okay.
Sound good? Eating kefir yogurt and had a couple slices of cheese. And what I noticed in your measurements specifically to reaffirm what you're talking about is that all of your measurements went down
Oh, they did.
except, I'm sorry?
They did.
Yeah, all of your measurements went down except your navel, your belly button. And
Mm.
that is typically dietarily related. And as we discovered with your dairy fiasco that we had a few weeks ago, like almost exclusively dairy related, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we can cut the dairy out, sorry, maybe permanently. I know.
Okay.
But like that's going to make a huge difference not only in the bloating, but like all of your measurements were down, which indicates that you're moving the right direction, right?
Okay.
So I do want to pause and like celebrate how excited I was looking at some of the changes that you've made the last few weeks because we've been working together, what, 5 years probably now?
Mm-hmm.
This is the most amount of care, dedication, and attention that I've seen you pay to your diet in the last 5 years.
Well, that's also because I don't have a job.
Okay, that's okay. And you know, maybe this is a blessing in disguise, right? Maybe you needed to slow down a little bit to be able to pay attention to it. So if we can hold on to these changes that you've been making, it's going to
Mm-hmm.
have awesome long-term benefits.
Okay.
Cool?
Cool.
Okay, awesome. So then the second piece that you mentioned that I wanted to ask about, oh, and then sometimes bloating can be, I think we talked about this last time, sometimes bloating can be related to high fiber intake because it's new and your body's still getting used to it. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something to pay attention to. So I think I'd mentioned this
Okay.
before for myself, and you can play with it a little bit too and see how it works for you. When I eat super high fiber, like more than I normally eat, so for
Mm-hmm.
example, we just went on a cheer trip, and one of the moms was trying to be really healthy and brought like veggie snacks and fruits, and I was there just munching all day on them, and I got bloated so bad because I do have fruits and veggies and all that stuff like built into my day, but it's like spread out throughout my day and incorporated with other foods. But I was just there, you know, shoving
Mm-hmm.
snacks in my mouth all day, got really bloated because it was a higher volume than I'm used to. So there's a possibility that some of your bloating could be coming from that because it's new, and
Mm-hmm.
that will eventually go away. Your system will start to get used to it. So I won't worry too much about that. But do pay attention to, let's say that you're eating tons of veggies, tons of fruits, da da da, that type of thing where it's really bulk,
Mm-hmm.
that will potentially make you feel more bloated as well. And so something
Okay.
that I started to do is if I eat a high fiber or a high fat snack, I try to
Mm-hmm.
also eat a little bit of carbs with it because that helps to settle my system so everything like processes better.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a me thing that I've noticed via my intuition. So you'll have to
Mm-hmm.
play with it and see what that version looks like for you. Does that make sense?
Well, I think I have been doing that, like, when I had pasta salad for lunch
Mm-hmm.
yesterday, I paired it with the broccoli salad that we got from Costco.
Okay.
So there was more broccoli salad than there was pasta. And
Ah,
so I paired that up. And then when we had dinner last night, it was fettuccine Alfredo.
okay.
And so I told Dad to give me spinach to layer at the bottom to eat with the fettuccine
Okay,
Alfredo.
okay. You were sounding in your daily responses like you weren't adding a ton, like you weren't getting super creative, but that's creative. That totally counts, right? Like you could have
Okay.
just ate the fettuccine, but you put spinach at the bottom. That's awesome,
Okay.
right? And maybe in the future, I know that it's one of those like bake situations, right, from Costco, right? So maybe
Mhm.
in the future, you guys chop up like little bell peppers and like mix it into the pasta and then bake
Mhm.
it all together or something. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, those are the choices that we're talking about. Also, P.S. Fettuccine Alfredo is very dairy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's could be the reason why I'm not feeling so good.
Uh-huh. So we talked about your gut transit time being really, really short.
Uh,
This could be why, right?
yeah.
If you continue to make those choices that are not going to stay in your system because you may be sensitive to them, then they are
Mhm.
going to come out the other end really quick, right?
Yeah.
So that's where you want to pay attention to. So that's an interesting point too. Okay, cool. So just to get into your measurements a little bit, your body fat percentage is down 1.6%.
Yay.
And it's been trending down. So last time your measurements were a little bit low, and I was like, okay, that's cool, but like we'll watch it, see if it's accurate or whatever. It was totally accurate. So we went from, let's see, apparently that's not a good way to look at it. Sorry, just pulling up your body fat percentage. Here you go. So we went from being at 51.3 to being down to 49.7.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm. And on top of that, your fat mass is down 3.5 pounds.
Yay.
So technically, this is from a month ago because remember we had that issue with the measurements from
Mhm.
2 weeks ago, but still 3.5 pounds from one month to the next. And before that, you were down 4.7. So cumulative from April 11th to May 24th, your body or your fat mass is down about 7 pounds.
Yay.
That's awesome, right? So again, reinforcing those dietary changes that you've been making because that's huge. That's awesome. And then your lean mass, you said that you mentioned that you are feeling more muscular. Tell me
Mm.
more about that.
Just like the lifting weights, even though they're still heavy, are not as heavy as it used to be.
Okay, excellent. I love that. I'm going to write that down too. And there is empirical evidence to back up your claim. So when we go into your lean mass, you are up 2.7 pounds from last month. So that's 2.7 extra pounds of muscle.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And the one before that, you were up 1.6 pounds. So since again, April 11th, we're up about 5 pounds of muscle,
Yay.
right? So that's huge. Down 7 pounds of fat, up 5 pounds in muscle is working. So definitely let's keep going with the way that we're going.
Mhm.
One thing that I did want to ask about was your active rest day. You hadn't been checking it off, and you know that you were doing the yoga, the chair yoga before, and that you enjoyed it. So have you not been doing that?
Well, this past weekend was one of those weekends where I didn't work on Saturday, but for some reason, my Saturday was full. Oh, and I don't tend to do my exercises on Saturday anyway. I do it on Sunday.
Okay.
And then on Sunday my day was full again because your dad and I went to the movies and that pretty much took up the whole day. And I just never got around to doing it after the movies and everything.
Okay. So let's be brutally honest with each other here, because I also run into that sometimes. But like yesterday, for example, because I fell asleep on the couch and didn't sleep as much as I was supposed to, I put off my workout so long that I didn't end up doing it. But
Mm-hmm.
I know that that was 100% in my internal locus of control and that I
Mm-hmm.
was just being tired and lazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that I needed to be forgiving of myself at the end of the day because I hadn't slept very well. But it was
Mm-hmm.
also my fault for putting myself in that situation because I tried to work late and fell asleep on the couch, right? Like that was totally 100% me. So I acknowledge that, yes?
Yeah.
So in your situation, internal locus of control, external locus of control, where do you think you are on the range in terms of like, okay, yes, your schedule was busy, you were doing things, could you still have made it happen?
I probably could still have made it. So it's an inner locus of control. I just had to do it, but I just kept putting it off and putting it off. And I tend to do that if I get distracted by other things.
Tell me more about that.
So procrastination has always been my thing.
Not sure that's a flex, but I do understand. Continue.
So, like, I mean, if I were totally honest, I could be like cleaning up the house and getting ready for Kimber right this second. And it's like, oh, well, it's not till June 14th. So, how long can I push this out until I really have to get better?
I 100% can identify with that. I hate it. It stresses me out so bad. And it is something that I've continued to struggle with and I'm getting slightly better at. So, in general, or in this particular situation, let's say that you have another busy weekend and you know that you're supposed to do your workout and we want to be consistent, right? Because we know that that's one
Right.
of the most important things right now. How can you still make it happen? What can that look like, even though it might be different? Does that make sense?
Okay, so as far as this weekend comes along, um, Friday we're going down to Longview for your dad's Lower Columbia Singers reunion.
Okay.
So we're spending the night in Longview. And then Saturday they have another activity. So sometime between going down Friday and Saturday, your dad talked about walking around Lake Louise
Mm-hmm.
and getting some walking in. So that's something that's already planned ahead of time.
Awesome. And that can be a substitute, right, for the chair yoga because it's still
Mm-hmm.
that active rest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. Okay. And so almost maybe sounds like building activities into your weekend that could cover that if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Well,
totally
I
fine with
know
that.
on Saturday, this past Saturday, because I had the weekend off, I actually got to go to the farmer's market at the North End. And so I really did have an opportunity to do a whole lot more walking because I parked further down the road from where the farmer's market was and had to walk all the way to the market, walk all the way through the market and back, and then carry all of my groceries with me at the same time. So I got in quite a few steps just because I went to the market that day, which is not something that I would normally do on a Saturday because I'd be working for 4 hours.
Yeah. And so that's something to keep in mind too is, like you said, how do we make our activities, whatever those are, be a more active version, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really good example. So then let me ask you about your steps. So I know that you were hitting 4,000 pretty consistently. We went to
Mm-hmm.
4,500 and that seemed to be harder, which is only 500 more steps. So where do you feel like the difficulty is and what can we do about it?
Well, depending on how much I walk, like last night, I did not get 4,500 steps in. I got more closer to 3,000. So that was also because I didn't walk on the treadmill at least once or twice. But I just need to do that. So, like today, after I exercise with you and get it at least 1,000 steps from all the exercising, then I need to walk on the treadmill. And when I go to work, I always park far enough away that I have at least a couple hundred steps to get to the tutoring place and then leave.
Okay. I like that you're trying to incorporate it into your day. That's awesome. So trying to park further. So then let me ask you again. You said you only got about 3,000 steps yesterday, which we have seen before.
Mm-hmm.
You did have 2 solid weeks. So week right before the challenge, 5 and 6, that you hit 4,000 steps every day for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Now that the goal is 4,500, we're hitting 3,000 question mark.
Yeah.
And I know that might have just been one day. I'm using it as an example, right? So where do you think that disconnect is?
I don't know. Maybe it's just that it's 500 more steps, so it seems a whole lot harder, even though it's only 500
Right?
and not 1,000. But I just, I take time. I take really baby steps, so it's gonna have to work a little bit harder.
Okay. Because what I'm thinking is, wouldn't it make sense for you to be at, let's say that our goal, you hit 2 weeks of 4,000. Let's say that our goal is 4,500, which it is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I would think theoretically that you would be at like 41 and some change or 42 and some change. Like, oh, I'm doing my normal amount and then I'm trying for that 45, but not hitting 45. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And we're
Mm-hmm.
not, it doesn't sound like we're there. So, do you think that there might be a psychological element, like it feels more intimidating, and so you're pulling back?
No, I don't think I'm pulling back, but I
Okay.
mean, it does seem a little intimidating because it has to be done consistently every day.
hmm And that's why we're trying to build it up a little bit at a time, right? Because you've
Right.
already established let me ask you, what compiled the 4,000 step day? Because again, you did it at least 2 weeks solid. So what would you do in a day to hit 4,000?
Well, just walking around the house and everything, along with walking on the treadmill at least twice.
Okay. For how long?
About 10 to 12 minutes.
Okay. So 4,000 steps equals walking around the house plus 2 treadmill sessions of 10 to 15 minutes, or 10 to 12, excuse me, minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So if we made that 12 to 14 minutes, do you think you could get the extra 500 steps?
Yeah, I guess so.
Or if we made it 12 all the time instead of 10 to 12?
Uh-huh. Maybe. It's just by the time I get to 10 minutes, it's like, oh my legs, my legs.
Or add a third walk, right? We've talked about that before too.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can do that. I'm doing it at 1.9 speed. And
Mhm.
so it's like, oh, this is exhausting.
Or bump the speed down, do it for longer, right? We have a lot of options. And do you hear what I'm trying to do is take anything that feels like that, like external locus of control, kind of an excusey type feel, and like, okay, how do we rein it back? What can we
Right,
actually do
right,
about
right.
it, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, I
excuses are
know.
easy to make. We got that in the bag all day.
Yeah, I know I can do that. And I can slow it down. It's just I feel like if I slow it down, do I get as many steps in?
And that's what I'm saying. If you slow it down, you'll probably have to walk longer,
Uh,
but you won't get tired as quickly. So that's the trade-off.
okay.
Cool.
Cool.
And so I want you to also hear one of our biggest things is that awareness piece. I want you to hear those, and I'm just going to call them excuses because it's the easiest way to think of them.
Mm-hmm.
Hear those excuse words. Oh, but it's just if,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's like trigger phrases where you're like trying to backtrack and explain yourself. And then in my head, now I start to have those conversations. If I think through, oh, how am I going to explain why I didn't do the thing that I knew I should have done that I could have totally done?
Mm-hmm.
And then I explain, oh, it's because, and then I feel that in my head. I'm like, okay, all right. You probably could have, should have done the thing,
Right.
right? And so I'm starting to recognize that myself more internally, and that's the goal for us as well, is hear yourself start to say it and then pull it back and be like, all right, well, I guess I probably could have, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Okay, beautiful. Let me see if there's anything else, and then we'll get started with your workouts. I think your weight is also trending down. That one we're not as concerned about because we know that the body fat percentage and the lean mass and the fat mass are switching places.
Uh-huh.
So that's something I want you to keep in mind too, because we're down 7 pounds in fat, up 5 pounds in muscle. Those pull together and it looks like you only lost 2 pounds.
Yeah, and then like I noticed when I weighed myself this morning because I had to get up super early to take the dog to get groomed
Hmm.
at 7 o'clock in the morning, that my weight was higher than yesterday morning when I slept in a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't like that.
Was it within 2 pounds?
Yes.
Then, psh,
What do you mean?
then it doesn't matter. Your weight can literally fluctuate like 1 to 2 pounds, 5 max within a day.
That's depressing.
It's not. Why does it matter? We're bodies, we fluctuate. That's totally fine.
I guess, but people who are overweight and are constantly watching that scale.
I understand that it's psychologically more difficult, and that's where I'm
Uh-huh.
trying to fill that gap for you, right?
Okay.
It's not that big of a deal. Your
Oh, good.
weight will fluctuate. And that's why we look at averages, right? That's why I'm having you weigh yourself every day. Not to be a scale watcher. I hate that. I don't want us to ever have to do that long term.
Mm-hmm.
It's to be able to get the most accurate information possible by averaging your weekly weight, because that's really what matters. Is what does our
Okay.
average look like? Yeah. So that way, don't worry day to day. It's just a data point. We just put it in there, and then we do some beep boops, and we calculate it.
Okay.
No like thought process or observation or judgment on what that number is.
Okay. So long as the fat mass goes down and the
Hmm.
lean mass goes up.
Exactly. And I may not change your mind on that right this second. I just want to put a little bug in your ear to make
Mm-hmm.
you realize that it's not that big of a deal.
And if I gain more muscle,
Then your
then
weight's going to go up.
the fat will go away, though.
But the fat will go away, right?
Yeah.
So, like, for example, I have a friend who just posted on his Snap the other day. Um, like 5 years ago, he was down. I think he said he's gained 60 pounds since 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Asterisk, all in muscle.
How do you gain 60 pounds in muscle?
It's possible.
Oh, so he's constantly lifting
Yeah,
weights?
for 5 years, right? That's totally
Mm.
reasonable. 5 years worth, it's like 10 pounds a year. That's like 1 pound a month.
So
Yeah,
basically, no steroids involved.
no. And he was like a little skinny mini, and now he's freaking buff. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of crazy to think about, right?
Right.
But think of it over the long term. That's 1 pound of muscle a month. That's not that big of a deal. You just gained 5 pounds of muscle in like a month and a half.
Okay.
See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we want to pay attention to. Not what that cumulative number is, because realistically speaking, muscle weighs more than fat. We're going to continue to probably stay around the same number for your weight, maybe
Mm-hmm.
even go up,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not a bad thing. And I know that that sounds weird because you're used to being concerned about the number on the scale. But
Uh-huh.
just like you said earlier, as long as that body fat percentage is going down, the body fat is going down, and the muscle's coming up, that's what we would care about.
All I want to do is look a lot more lean.
Yeah. And so it
Like
doesn't really
Martha.
matter what that number is, right? You just want to like look and feel good.
I want to look like Martha.
Oh, okay. Who is also trying to put on muscle mass. So that's the thing too, is we see other people and we're like, okay, I want that, but like, okay, what are they willing to do with it? Do you know what Martha does every day?
Lift weights.
She walks at least 5 miles every single day,
That's what Auntie Joan used to do, and now she can't do it anymore.
right? So if you're willing to walk 5 miles every single day, continue to make dietary changes, and now she's lifting 3 to 4 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see all that dedication?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's one of those things where if you wish that you want to be in someone else's situation, you also have to ask, are you willing to do everything that they're doing?
Yeah. The walking 5 miles a day does not sound doable
Hmm. Right now.
right now.
So just offer some perspective.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions. Active rest. Oh, for the pickles, were they fermented or just vinegar pickles?
Kosher.
Okay, so I'm guessing they're probably not fermented. Most pickles are not. They're actually a teeny bit difficult to find. And so if it's just a regular pickle, you may not be getting the probiotic benefits.
Oh, okay.
You can be getting, well, you are getting the prebiotic benefits. So do you remember the difference between those two?
No.
Okay, so probiotics are the live bacteria. Those are the ones that live in your gut and help your gut out, right?
Uh-huh.
So that's the ones that we're getting from the kefir, the yogurt, etc.
Mm-hmm.
The prebiotics is basically anything with fiber in it. So you're still getting the benefit of the fiber from the pickle itself, and the
Uh-huh.
fiber feeds the bacteria.
Oh, okay.
So that's still good. It's just not going to give you the probiotic benefits that you were thinking of
Uh-huh.
unless they're specifically fermented, which is a lot more rare. Not impossible to find, just more rare.
Huh. Well, I guess that's true. But then, oh, it's because kimchi is fermented, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And I didn't see kimchi on your list, but you have mentioned it. Did you eat it?
Yeah, I did. I bought
Okay,
kimchi the other day,
cool.
so I did have a little bit.
Cool. That's a good one. And then we'll keep doing the yogurt. Sounds like maybe the kefir's not going to work out for your gut, but at least the ultra filtered yogurt, let's take a look at that.
And then
Um,
I got kombucha that I haven't
there we go.
opened yet.
Were
So,
you able to find a kombucha with low sugar? Because a lot of them are high sugar.
uh, I'm pretty sure it's low sugar because it's homemade,
Okay.
so they don't add a lot of extra stuff.
Homemade doesn't necessarily mean they don't add a lot of extra stuff. It does usually mean that they don't add a lot of like preservatives, right?
Right,
But
and
sometimes they still add a lot of salt or sugar,
this
depending.
one is peach ginger.
Okay. Yeah. So kombucha is an awesome probiotic. That's a really, really good one. I would just look at the back of the label and see how much sugar it contains.
Yeah,
Because
I'm
that's a
pretty
big
sure.
issue with kombucha. I don't know if it just tastes nasty without sugar, but they do tend to put a lot in there.
Well, I asked her whether it was peachy or gingery, and she said ginger. So I don't think they would add a lot of sugar to it. It tastes gingery.
Yeah. We'll find out, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, okay, the last two questions I have for you is you mentioned your garden. Are you growing a lot of veggies in there?
No, see, it's just those 5 planters.
Okay.
So I have bok choy, which is not growing the way I thought it would. It's not the kind of bok choy I'm used to seeing.
Okay. I love that you did add that to one of your meals.
And then also I have lettuce, sage, and violets that I planted later. And then I tried planting chives, and for some reason they didn't take.
Yeah, we've had some issues with chives taking too. Okay, cool. Yeah, definitely keep the garden up. We'll try and use those as much as possible. And then the last piece was that you said that you're having an issue with some plant diversity. I did hear some creative ways to include plants. Is there any other way, this will be the last talking point and then we'll get going. Is there any other way that you can think of trying to diversify your plants a little bit more?
Um, it would be so much easier if I just knew how to like cook Asian style,
Okay.
because plant diversity there is like all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have gourd vegetables and you have different types of squashes that don't exist in the regular supermarket,
Okay.
and leafy greens and stuff. But since I don't know how to cook like that, and I don't cook like that, it makes it a little bit harder.
So it might be something to explore, try to find some recipes or something.
Well, and then the other thing is, I'm not just cooking for myself, I'm also cooking for dad. And dad tends to be a picky eater.
That was interesting. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, he doesn't like a lot of things that he doesn't know. So whenever we go to Asian restaurants or anything, he goes, well, you decide, just make sure you get something I like.
And he gets chicken teriyaki. Okay, I did kind of know that. Okay, so it might be something that you guys have to ease into. With that being said, he is obviously very open to trying to eat more plants and stuff like that with his salads and his nuts and his seeds and all that stuff. So maybe if you can emphasize that point, like, look how good this would be for you, nudge, nudge. Maybe he'll be more open to it.
Maybe.
Okay. And I want to point out another external locus of control keyword you just said. Do you know what it was?
No.
Well, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's do it. I'm going to stop the recording.